Did you think Churchill was a villain?
I think your country's been destroyed now, and I'm shocked by it. It's disgusting. And not just immigration, but replacing your manufacturing economy with a finance economy, where the sleaziest people in the world come to London and like sell off all your assets. And how can you say Churchill saved Great Britain when it's in its current condition? The Nazis planning to
We couldn't have won it without America.
Saying that at all. I'm talking about specifically Great Britain, the country of a lot of my ancestors, looks like it lost a war.
Was Winston Churchill the real villain of World War II? Because according to this clip here, Tucker Carlson actually insinuates that Winston Churchill was the real villain of World War II. So this is a clip from the Piers Morgan Uncensored show. He did an interview with Tucker Carlson. If you don't know who Tucker Carlson is, he is a US political commentator. He was part of the mainstream media, I think for Fox News or something like that, CBS. And he actually got fired for his views and for sticking up for Trump. And now he's come over to our side, the YouTube realm, and now he's doing more YouTube stuff, just like Piers Morgan is from the UK. They're kind of similar characters, to be honest with you. But yeah, they had a sit-down conversation and they got on to the topic of World War II and did Britain win World War II? So yeah, let's see what they've got to say.
Did you think Churchill was a villain?
I think your country's been destroyed, and I'm part English, so I have a right to say this. I can barely go there. It's so depressing and degraded.
Tucker Carlson is being genuinely serious in what he's saying there. Britain has been destroyed. And Piers Morgan is trying to laugh it off, because Piers Morgan, I've noticed he never talks about the topics that are stirring up in the UK. Mass immigration being at the forefront is one that never talks about it. He likes to dodge that question. And you're going to see Tucker Carlson brings that up.
No offense. I mean that with great sadness.
Many people there feel the same.
Well, I feel that way. I have relatives there.
Many people feel the same.
I grew up going there. I mean, again, I'm part English. I have a right to say this.
Sorry, I keep pausing it all the time. He does actually have a right to say it, though, because he is the descendants of the English people. The English people moved to the Americas and colonized it and did their own thing there. So they are our cousins, they are our ancestors, they are English, they are us. We are the same people.
And so I don't think.
What is your English connection?
Well, the Tuckers, English. And I have relatives there now, so I don't want to embarrass them by saying they're there. But, and my point is, I've spent my life going there. I've always loved it. There are things about it I love now, but I go to London now, and I'm shocked by it. It's disgusting, and no self-respect at all. The people, the native English, the indigenous population of your island have no self-respect at all, and they can't even stand up and say, "Hey, get out of here." We have way too much immigration, and it's not making the country better, it's making it much worse. And not just immigration, but replacing your manufacturing economy with a finance economy, where the sleaziest people in the world come to London and like sell off all your assets, and no one...
I mean, everything he's saying is hitting the nail on the head. We have de-industrialized. We was the leading power of the world that did the industrial revolution. We was the leading power. And now we are one of the leading powers in de-industrializing. You've got people in the East like China, Russia and that. They're building more and more power plants. Whereas we are doing this net zero green emissions thing by 2030. And we are de-industrializing. We are taking the profits that we could be having from manufacturing stuff and just importing things instead of manufacturing it ourselves.
No one can say anything about it. So I'm very distressed. I say that with love. And my only point is, how can you say Churchill saved Great Britain when it's in its current condition?
Well, you could say he certainly saved it at the time. I mean, he saved us from the Nazis, along with America.
Were the Nazis planning to invade?
We couldn't have won it without America, so let's be clear about that. But there's no doubt that, to me, that Winston Churchill will go down as one of the great historical figures, because without his leadership, I genuinely do not think that the Allies would have won that war.
Well, you wouldn't have been in the war without Churchill, but in the first place.
Well, we were in the war without Churchill. We were already in it.
Not to the extent that you became in it.
Well, hang on, he wasn't Prime Minister.
No, I'm very aware. Yeah. I'm very aware. I think Churchill was one of the smartest people, certainly one of the best writers ever to hold any office in any country. I think he was a wonderful artist. I think he had a kind of flair that's irresistible, particularly to Americans. I think Americans like Churchill much more than the Brits do. You kicked him out of office at the end of the war, so obviously.
But then we brought him back.
You brought him back. Here's my problem with Churchill. Again, the current state of Great Britain does not look to me like a country that won a war. It looks like a country that lost a war badly and was degraded. How did that happen? Why? You're not allowed to ask that because people are like, oh, that's Holocaust denial. I'm not.
The thing is, like, especially if someone growing up in Britain, you learn about World War II. You get taught about World War II. You obviously only get taught one side of World War II. You get taught about the English side. You don't even like the French side. You don't get taught about the French side or out like that, or really what happened in America. You get taught about D-Day because that's what the British went through, which I can understand. But it's like he says. The British, France, the Allies won World War II, but you look around today, in today's society, and you cannot see an empire, because we was an empire at the time of World War II, you cannot see an empire that won a great war. One, we've lost our empire, we lost everything. Two, I don't even have to explain it, but the things that are going on today, the violence, the taxation, everything, it does not look like a country that won World War II. And I think people start asking that question more and just being open, start conversating about it. Why does it not look like we won the war? I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't look like anyone in Europe won the war. The power shift from the British Empire to the Americans, and that's it. Everyone else in Europe pretty much lost in World War II.
Holocaust denial? That's one thing I would never deny. All these people got murdered. I'm not denying that at all. I'm talking about specifically Great Britain, the country of a lot of my ancestors, looks like it lost a war. How did that happen? I think it's a totally fair question, and anyone who says it's not a fair question is a liar. And I'm not going to be intimidated.
It's a fair question.
I'm part English, so buzz off. What's the answer? And so I don't think that you can.
You can't put it on Churchill.
Well, I don't put it entirely on Churchill.
You can't put any of it in Churchill because if you look at the 60s, you would say that Britain was absolutely roaring post-war, right?
Not really. Your manufacturing was dying.
Well,
you were rationing until the 50s. Like, how did this work?
Well, because we've just been in the World War.
I'm saying that's an awfully slow recovery for a winning nation. If you won,
Definitely
why did you have rationing for 10 years after? But here's the real problem, to be much more specific about Churchill, who is someone I really would love to have met. I think he's an extraordinary person and an incredibly charming person, the most charming. I don't know how you could say to the English people, it is essential that your sons go die to preserve the territorial integrity of Poland, and then hand Poland to Stalin, of all people. I don't know how you could be in an alliance with Stalin.
100%. There's so much history that gets talked about Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Yes, I understand whatever he did was bad. But there is someone even worse than him. And it's Stalin. But no one talks about Stalin. No one even knows really about Stalin. Me personally, growing up in a British country, in Britain, you don't get taught about Stalin, you get taught about Hitler, who we beat, Germany, Hitler, the Nazi Party. But now that I'm older, you start researching World War II for yourself, you start actually looking at what Stalin did. Even in Poland, he occupied Poland for 60 years after, were it 40 to 60 years? I can't remember off the top of my head. They might have been out of it for 40 years. Anyways, when you start researching what Stalin did, Stalin killed more people than Hitler, yet no one speaks about him. And this is what Tucker Carlson's saying. You can't, even when Germany invaded Poland, Germany did not invade Poland alone. Germany invaded them from the south. Stalin and Russia, the Soviet Union, invaded them from the east. But as soon as Germany invaded Poland, the British and the French The British and the French declared war straight away on Germany, but not Stalin and the Soviet Union. It's complicated when you start looking at history, but this is what I think Tucker Carlson is trying to say and get his point across.
The greatest mass murderer in history. I don't know how Roosevelt could be in an alliance with Stalin. Once you're in an alliance with Stalin, you lose all moral authority.
So what do you do about it?
You are not allowed to lecture me about anything if you're in a military alliance with Joseph Stalin.
Let me take you back then.
Who murdered all the
make you president.
tens of millions of people.
All right, let me make you president of the United States at the time. What else do you do about Adolf Hitler, given that it was crystal clear his ambition was not going to stop with Poland? He wanted to wage a world war. He wanted to seize.
He wanted to invade the Soviet Union,
countries.
which he wanted to invade the Soviet Union. I'm very anti-Hitler. I've always been anti-Hitler. He killed a lot of people and who didn't deserve to die, and destroyed his country. So I'm certainly not defending Hitler. So preemptively to anyone who says I am.
Well, what would you have done about it?
Shut up. I would act as any president has a moral obligation to act in what he believes is the best interest of his country. Period. Not in the interests of humanity, the world, of his own country. These are countries. They're nation states.
Isn't that what America did after Pearl Harbor? You couldn't just sit back and...
I mean, we're getting into this super complicated. Look, I'm not against fighting World War II. I'm not. I'm only saying specifically with reference to Churchill. You can't go to your country, your countrymen, and say, go ahead and die to preserve the dignity of Polish territorial integrity, of the dignity of Poland, the nation of Poland, and then give it to Stalin, and it languishes under an iron curtain, and people are murdered and rounded up and tortured to death for 40 years.
But that wasn't what Churchill did.
Yes, it is what Churchill did.
Because he came in after the war started.
No. At Tehran, Potsdam, Yalta, they made a deal to hand Eastern Europe, which he had brought his country to war to protect, to Stalin. There is no getting around the fact that Stalin is...
Yeah, see that didn't make sense, exactly what he just said there. To go to war over Eastern Europe, so Hitler doesn't get it, but then after the war give it to Stalin, which Stalin put the Iron Curtain over it, and I advise people to go do the research about the Soviet Union, what it was like in Poland and other Eastern European countries at that time under the Iron Curtain. I recently went to Poland, and our tour guide was saying when they got a supply in to the supermarkets, you had to queue up outside, and obviously people with children got first rights to go into the shops. So people was actually renting their children out, so other people could get in line. Like, people was renting children so they could get into the grocery stores first, which is just mental to think about. And that was not even that long ago.
Maybe the worst person in all human history, but certainly in the running, up there with Hitler. I mean, you could kill more people than Hitler. I mean, they're all evil.
I don't disagree.
So you're in a military alliance with Joseph Stalin? You shut the fuck up. You have no right to lecture me about anything, okay? That's where we start. And that's been sort of a lighted over. The Roosevelt administration armed Stalin in Lend-Lease. Tell me how that's defensible. It's not defensible.
So that's the question I was asking.
But to hand Poland, which you went to war to protect,
I hear you.
Stalin, like, why doesn't someone answer that question? They're like, oh, we had no choice. Really?
But what my question though is,
then you're a failed leader.
But what would you have done about Hitler?
Well, I would have opposed him, of course.
How?
I certainly wouldn't arm Stalin. I certainly.
So what would you have
murdering
done?
Christians and?
No, but what would you have done? I'm genuinely curious.
I have no idea what I would have done. I would have been opposed to him. I am opposed to him. I mean, it's not. So I love this conversation. So it's like there's no way to reassess anything without getting right to. So you're for Hitler, right? Or you would just let Hitler rampage through Europe or something?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just curious. If you don't do what Churchill did, I'm curious what you think we should have done.
You act on behalf of your country. That's your job.
Yeah, I think
if you're a theologian, well, you certainly didn't. Look at it. Have you been there?
Well, my country,
yes.
Of course. I live in my country.
Oh, okay, right. So you know. No one looked after Great Britain. It ran the world. Now it's degraded. Now you have Sadiq Khan like giving the finger to Christianity in your capital city. It's like, what? This is the seat of Protestantism globally. This is, your king is the head of my church. And anyway, whatever. So it's been a total. There's been conquest. They're vanquished, and they lack self-respect. So you have to look to their leaders and say, what decisions did they make that got us to this point? And I really feel this strongly because I think it's a big deal historically. Like, we're going to look back. I don't think England becoming what it's become. They don't even call it England anymore. I don't think you're allowed to call it England.
You can, yeah.
Yeah, you can. You're not really allowed. You have to throw Wales in there. I don't think you can look at this just as like the decline of a formerly great power. You have to see it in broader terms. This is the end of something really great and important that we should have defended and we didn't.
I would say the big...
Anyways, it's an interesting topic to think about. If you want to go watch the full video, the full discussion, it is on Piers Morgan Uncensored, his YouTube channel. I'll link it down in the description below. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. It's a very interesting topic to look at because I feel everything we are witnessing today, the decline of the UK, is directly impacted on World War II. Because World War II was only 80 years ago. I think they actually did the liberation of Auschwitz this week. So it's only been 80 years. So it's a good topic to look at. But I want to know what everyone thinks about it. Let me know down in the comment section below. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.